Hi everyone, welcome to our Live at Lunch this Thursday. We are here to talk about all things money, making money as a Christian business owner, which is something I get asked a lot of questions about. Things like, how should I price myself? Is it okay to run a profitable business, or should I set up a charity? Different questions like that. So today, we are going to dive into this in the first 15 minutes of our session. And then towards the end, we will have some time for questions as well. So do pop me a comment and let me know if you can hear me okay. And we will get stuck into our slides. I just want to make sure that we are showing across the different channels okay, because we do have different bits and pieces coming up here. So bear with me a second. Okay, cool. I think that you should be able to see me okay. Cool. So we're going to get stuck in without further ado. And then if you have any questions at all as we're going through this, feel free to give me a comment in the questions and I will be right with you. So I'm just going to, sorry, I'm just checking that people can hear because I can't see any comments either. Okay, super. So if you're commenting, I can't see it for some reason, but welcome. Do, as I say, pop your questions in the comments if you have any, and I will be sharing my slides now, and we're going to think about what it means to make money as a Christian business owner. So we're going to share screen and get stuck into some slides. So these are, here we go. Yes, perfect. Okay, great. So these are some slides from our Fruitful Finances Masterclass. So it's like a little bit of a taster of the bigger masterclass, but it's just a few things for us to think about, because obviously we are keeping it to 10 to 15 minutes of teaching and then some time for questions. So we are going to dive into this topic and start to think about it, but we only have a small amount of time. So we are going to give you some food for thought, and you can go and mull it over the next few days. So what does it mean to make money as a Christian business owner? Can you make money and also be a follower of Jesus? Doesn't the Bible tell us that the love of money is the root of evil? And so today we are going to dive into this question. Can you make money as a Christian? Now, spoiler alert, yes, you can. That is the summary. But we're going to look at a little bit more of why it's okay for us to run profitable businesses as Christians. So in Matthew 6:21, one of my very favorite verses is this verse where it says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." And then in Psalm 37 verse 4, we see a similar verse that says, "Take delight in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart." So in both of these verses, we have this idea of where our treasure is, there our heart is, and what we delight in, the Lord gives us. And so when we look at people who don't follow Jesus, often what they love and where their heart's delight is in this idea of money and power and status. And so all their actions are driven to gain those things and to get as much of those things as possible. But when we love Jesus, when we love the Lord, when we delight in the Lord, when our treasure is with him, then he gives us himself and we have Jesus. So we primarily as Christians want our hearts and minds to be focused on him, rather than on the acquisition of material goods. So when all of our lives are centered on Jesus, then it gives us a firm foundation with which to do all of life. And that includes, for many of us watching this live, it includes running businesses and working and going out to use the gifts that we have been given in a professional capacity as well. So we've got some other Bible verses about money that I'm going to run through quickly as well. So we've got Ecclesiastes 5 verse 10, which says, "Whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless." So when we set our hearts on money and we go after money, there is never enough. It always feels like we're chasing a carrot on a stick. It's never fulfilling or satisfying. But when you contrast that to the life that we have in Jesus, when we love Jesus and we follow him, he is everything that we need in life. He satisfies the desires of our hearts. He is enough for all of us. So when we find Jesus, we find true satisfaction. When we chase money, we will never be satisfied. So Hebrews 13 says, keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. So again, we have the idea of being satisfied and content with the living God, regardless of our circumstances in this age. Then Timothy, again, this is a classic and it's rolled out a lot of the time. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. So this love of money can lead us down a path that is dangerous to our eternal souls and also can burden us with many griefs as well. It makes our lives much harder. So if our treasure is in money, our heart is going to be in worldly things and it's going to be focused on the financial and the material. But if our treasure is in Jesus, then what we value is that I'm sharing life with Jesus and my heart is going to be found in Jesus. So as a basic understanding of our approach to money as Christian businesses, this sums it up. And we want to be very careful of the desires of our heart because we will get them. And so we want the desires of our heart to be of eternal worth and significance and to be found in Jesus. We don't want to give away eternal life in Jesus for a taste of money and material pleasures in this passing age. So one of the things that you come across a lot in Christian culture is this idea of freebies. So this freebie culture of, because Jesus gives himself freely, we should give away our skills and gifts freely as well. So when we approach this, what does this free mindset impact us as business owners? How does it impact us? So Christians can often expect things for free or cheap, and this is especially true when they are explicitly Christian or ministry related. But we still have business overheads, and we see in the Bible people are running businesses. Lydia and Acts, there's loads of different examples of people running businesses where they were selling and buying and doing all of these different things. Sharing Jesus is part of our whole life. It is not just a free thing that we do at the weekend. So if we have this idea of Christians should do things for free, then what we're basically saying is that all of life should be free and we shouldn't think of money at all. And we should all live in a way that requires no material or financial things, because being a Christian and following Jesus is this complete experience. It's about 24/7 life. It is not just show up on a Sunday, donate a bit of free time to church and boom, jobs are good and back to work. So when we are really truly following Jesus and he is our whole life, then we need to understand money and finances and business with Jesus at the center of them. And this free mindset can often come from a place of splitting up work and business and profit and commerce from our lives as Christians. So Matthew 10 verse 10 says, do not get any gold or silver or copper to take with you in your belts, no bag for the journey or extra shirt or sandals or a staff, for the worker is worth his keep. So this verse is telling us, it's the disciples, like they're going out and where Jesus is saying that basically they don't need to take anything with them because they're going to work. And so people will pay them as they go. And the expectation is that they will be paid as they go. So that's a little bit of a touch on the idea of should we offer things for free as Christians? Where is this mindset of things should be free as Christians coming from? And often it's actually coming from a place of Jesus being an add-on to life rather than the center of life itself. So when we truly put Jesus at the center of life, we can embrace the idea of money and finance and profit in a way that is much more confident, because we're not having to see it as this add-on thing that we do in our free time. So setting financial goals then as a Christian, what does that look like? Goals are completely unique and individual to each person, to each circumstance, to each business owner, to what gifts and skills you have got. But if your heart is fixed on Jesus, then you have freedom to set financial goals without being chained to money and without feeling like everything you do is ruled by this goal. And, you know, in the business space, we see adverts all the time for people who are saying, join my program, make 6 figures a month or make 6 figures a year. And they're giving you this carrot on a stick of like, join me and I'll help make you rich. And actually, when we are found in Jesus, we don't need to feel like our worth or our business is defined by these external expectations of success or financial freedom. So your goals as a business owner can be about finance, or they can be about impact, or they can be both. We're not saying you have to have financial goals. We're not saying all your goals should only be about the impact that you have on the people around you. We're saying you can choose, and that's an amazing freedom to have. And for me, in my own business, we have both financial goals and we have impact goals, because actually we want to serve people with the gifts that we've got. And so we don't have finances as this inhuman number that we're aiming for. We understand that if we're building a business and building revenue, that's because we're serving people. And so the people are really the focus for us as we make our goals and run our businesses. So when we're setting goals, we want to be realistic as well as aspirational. If you're just starting out, it's highly unlikely that you're going to get to £10,000 a month anytime soon, because there's foundational things that we need to put in place. For some of you, you might be already making, you know, £50,000 or £60,000 a year, in which case, you know, making £80,000 a year in the next 12 months is going to be realistic for you. Again, this depends on our circumstance. So we don't want to say this is what your financial goal should look like, because it's dependent on your own circumstance, where you are in business, and also what your needs are and what you feel you want. For some people, they want to make £10,000 a year from their business, and that is their goal, and that is amazing. So don't ever let somebody project a goal onto you that isn't aligned with what you feel called to do. So then last section, how to price yourself. So I am going to share a little sneak peek of our pricing calculator with you, and you can use that to determine how much the base cost you should be charging is. But do pop us an email at hello@cheerfullygiven.com if you don't see the link for that. But the minimum you should charge is based on not just the hourly rate for the country you live in. So in the UK, the hourly rate is about £8.50, £9 an hour. That's like the minimum wage. And so often when business owners are pricing themselves, they're like, oh, okay, when I'm first starting out, I need to aim to make, you know, £12 an hour or something. And that's seen as good because it's more than the minimum wage. But when we're running businesses, we have lots of other things to consider, like tax, pension, overheads, sick pay, holiday pay, all of these extra things. So when we're pricing ourselves, actually as a freelancer, the minimum range that you should be looking at charging is between £20 and £25 an hour if you're very first starting out. But some freelancers charge much more than that, based on you know, providing a service, because they have all of these additional costs to take into account as well. Pricing is mostly a contrived idea, because if somebody will pay it, then that's how much it's worth. So that's a conceptual, philosophical conversation for another time, perhaps. But if we think about the difference between two handbags, if you go to Primark, you can buy a handbag for £5. If you go to Louis Vuitton, you could be paying like £3,000 for a handbag. Both of those things are worth the price tag because people are paying it. So that's what I mean about pricing being mostly contrived. But Seth Godin, who is one of my favorite marketers in the secular space, says low price is the refuge of the marketer with nothing left to offer. So we don't need to feel forced into low price because we're Christians or because that's what people expect from us. Actually, our marketing and our ability to determine the need for what we're providing helps us to put our prices up, or helps us to charge what we want to charge. One of my least favorite sayings is charge your worth. You cannot charge your worth because you are worth more than rubies. Nobody can afford you, honey. So don't be going around saying I need to charge my worth, because it's impossible. But you can charge more appropriately and in line with your financial goals with confidence. So when you're thinking about pricing yourself, here are a few things for you to take away from this. And then with that, we'll have 10 minutes for questions. So pricing your costs, pricing your time, pricing your value. So as we've said, the value piece is not something that I enjoy, or saying, you know, price your worth, but actually value that you can bring to a business. For instance, if I have a consultation with someone, I might spend an hour telling them what to fix in their marketing, and that hour hour in past businesses that I've been in has maybe brought in £50,000 to £100,000. And so from a value point of view, I could charge them £25 for my time, but the value to that business is £50,000 to £100,000. So rather than charging for my time, I'm going to charge based on the value that they are able to get from the advice and the optimizations that I've helped them achieve. So those are the three different sort of formats that we want to consider. Costs and time are both things that you need to think about for product-based businesses. Time and value are things that are typically more service-based. So a couple of questions for you to go away and think about. What is stopping you from charging more in your business? What is stopping you from making sure that you're charging an appropriate market, at least market medium rate for what you're doing? Sometimes that can be because we don't feel confident in what we're doing yet and we're still starting out, in which case it's normal to charge less because you're still gaining confidence and gaining expertise. But when we are committed to excellence and we know that we're providing something of value, then we can price ourselves with confidence because we can step out and know that what we're doing has got excellence behind it. We've been committed to expertise, and so that allows us to say, yes, that is how much this item is going to be from a paid point of view. So the final verse I want to leave you with is this: whatever you do, work at it with your whole heart. Work at it with your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. It's one of my favorite verses in Colossians 3 verse 23. And in anything we're doing in our business, we want to make sure we are working for the Lord and not for human masters. So we don't want to be prioritizing and focusing on the things that maybe human masters value, like, profit and money and status and power. We instead want to think about what the Lord prioritizes, which is life in Jesus and community and life as his church. And so the tension of running a business within that is something that not very many people are talking about, but it is completely fine for you to step out in the gifts that you've been given, work professionally, charge for your time, make profit and build a profitable business. And from my point of view, I love being able to build a profitable business because it allows me to be generous and support other things that are happening in the wider church and my wider church family and God's kingdom in a way that people who don't run businesses are not necessarily able to do as much depending on their circumstances. So growth, vision and impact is one for another time. So I'm going to finish our slide share there because we are running low on time, and let me just figure out how to remove this, and then we are now going to answer some questions. So we've got about 6 or 7 minutes for questions, maybe up to 10 minutes, but we've got a Tent Peg Collective session at 1 p.m. looking at time management and productivity, and it would be highly improper of me to be late for a session on time management, so we want to make sure we're wrapped up by the top of the hour. Amazing. So thank you so much for everyone who's joining. It's great to see that we've got people joining us on YouTube as well. Welcome if you're on Facebook or on YouTube. So I'm glad that you could hear. Eastern Elementary School is joining us from Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome. That is amazing. I always love it when we have people from different countries, cultures and time zones. I'm just here in London and it's very grey and rainy. So I always imagine other people joining us from prettier and more enjoyable climes. Here we go. Amazing. So Sylvie, thanks so much for sharing such great advice. You are so welcome. Thanks for joining again today. So then we've got a question, a question that says, I never understood the Bible verse of go with no sandals or bag, etc. Thank you. I'm learning recently to realize Jesus owns everything. Exactly. So we are stewards of everything he gives us. Colossians we're learning more of at the moment. Bridal designers put a price per PCM normally means per calendar month. So I'm not 100% sure what that means in the bridal side, but I can definitely look into that for you and get back to you in the Tent Peg Collective, Danielle. So thank you for that question. Yeah, so when we when we think about finances, we can approach them generously and without worrying about scarcity and not having enough, because it might be that we're in a season where we don't have enough to pay our bills at the moment, and that happens a lot in business and people just don't talk about it. But in my own business journey, the concept of like going broke as an entrepreneur is a common one, as you're like wrestling with cash flow and building a business and growing things and juggling different situations and things like that. So it's not always a completely straightforward journey for people, but it's also not something that people talk about a lot, and it can get exhausting if the cycle goes on a long time. So it's something we want to prioritize and get comfortable with so that we can continue to run a business in a sustainable way. But one of my favorite things to think about when I'm feeling stressed about finances, which never stops, even if you grow really big businesses, you always have financial stresses, is that Jesus owns everything in the universe, as Danielle's pointed out there. So we talk about that a lot in the Tempe Collective. All of the resources of the universe are in control of the living God. So we have got, a heavenly Father who gives us everything in Jesus. All of creation is provided for. Flowers have rain, sparrows have food, every hair on our heads is numbered. And so the living God cares deeply about these material and practical parts of our lives as well. And even if we're in a season where things feel very difficult right now, we want to always remember that everything is in the hands of the living God. And when we are given finances and when we have those things, actually they were God's in the first place. So one of the other questions I get a lot is about tithing. So like, how much should I tithe as a business owner? And I like to reframe that and think, actually, how much should you hold back? If God has given it to you in the first place, what do you feel comfortable holding on to? So that's another, maybe something for you to think about as you're getting to grips with this and starting to wrestle with it a bit more with regards to your faith. So how did you get over the fear of pricing? This is such a great question. So for me, when I first started out doing freelance work, I earned $3 an hour. So this was like 15 years ago, and I really did not earn very much at all doing what I was doing. But now I'm in a position where, as a marketing consultant, I charge much, much more than that. And I work with much bigger businesses because my skills have grown over time. And so that's given me more confidence. I've seen the impact that my work has, which also gives me confidence. So there's like lots of different things that can help us to get over our fear of charging more. Now, from a product point of view, if you're running a product business, it's a slightly different situation, because when we're first starting out, we might not necessarily, we might just make very basic calculations around like wholesale and RRP, but we might think, oh, actually I'm only starting out, so I'm just going to charge £6 for an art print, but actually the going rate for an art print is £15 to £20. So we want to take market value for certain product types into account as well when we're doing that kind of pricing. So in terms of pricing my time, that's something that definitely confidence grows over time with that. I've also had mentors who've fed back to me and said, Actually, you need to put your prices up and stop undercharging. And I've done that myself with people in the Cheerfully Giving community, for instance, where I've said, look, your work is beautiful. You've really put so much effort into this product range. I think you probably need to think about increasing your RRP so that actually the business can be sustainable in the long term as well. So this is a great question. What do you think about offering something for free as a marketing tool or way to bless people? So, for example, downloadable colouring sheets. Absolutely great. You can totally do that. I do that a lot in my marketing business, where I run Cheerfully Given, but I also have Marketing with Menexia, and I teach people about SEO because I'm a massive marketing nerd. And I have a free video series called SEO School. With the Tempe Collective, we have a free quiz at the minute, but we also have a 5-day challenge called the Isaiah 54 verse 2 Business Challenge. And that is 5 days helping people get to grips with growing their businesses. And we do things like webinars and things like this as well. So there's a lot that can be said for putting things out for free and helping people, get quick wins and, make life more enjoyable. But what we're wanting to maybe press back against slightly is that idea that actually everything we do should be discounted or free because we're Christians, or because especially if we're in a very specifically Christian space, because it's got Bible verses on it or something like that. So hopefully that helps clarify that a little bit more as well. So this question, would you like to charge an individual differently from another because one is more in need or more rich? So again, this is to do with your own personal journey and what you're happy to charge and things like that. But I have got different rates for small businesses in my marketing than I have for some bigger businesses. An example of that is I work with people whose businesses are valued at like, you know, $10 to $20 million, for instance. If they sold the business, that's how much they could get for the business. So that's like people with a lot more budget and a lot more cash flow than small business owners who are trying to make £10,000 or £15,000 a year from their business. So my day rate for those bigger businesses is going to be more in line with a consultancy fee with the market for that group of people, which I would never charge to a small business owner, because actually for a small business owner, I want to help encourage people and build them up and make sure that they have good quality tools and resources to get started. So I do charge differently depending on what service I'm offering, basically, as well, and also depending on what value people are getting out of it. So for again, you know, to just use my own personal story as an example, if I'm working with a small business owner, the value they're going to get in the next 12 months is very different to the value that an 8-figure business is going to get out of what I have to say in the next 3 months. So the sort of value received is also a consideration there as well. Hopefully that makes sense. How do you deal with the please can you do this for me as a favor? So I get a lot of questions where people are like, oh, could I just pick your brain, or could we just hop on a Zoom and can I ask you a quick question? And my response is that I have a calendar item set up where it's like a 30-minute consultation call and it charges people, you know, 50 quid or something. But basically I have something where I'm like, yeah, sure thing, you can book in my calendar here, and it's got a payment attached to it. So that's kind of how I would deal with that if I don't have the capacity to do it for free. But the please can you do me a favor thing, if you're a professional, it's up to your discretion. So if your local church asks you for a favor and you're like, yeah, sure thing, I'm happy to do that as part of my service in this local church family, then that's great. But if some other, you know, person is getting in touch with you, then it's a different set of circumstances, because what you're doing is done professionally and your time is worth money. So do maybe think about like a carefully worded automated response that you can send to people who ask you for a favor, and just say, yeah, sure thing, here are my rates, and let me know if you want to move forward, and just leave it open-ended and leave it with them. What do you do if you can't choose how much people charge for your product? So for instance, music streaming distribution, is it more about maximizing your reach instead? Yes, 100%. If you don't have control over the price that you're setting, then you really want to just maximize your audience as much as possible. Sylvie, if you go to it's just marketingwithminextra.com, so if you go over there, then you can find access to the free resources for that as well. So Jessica says, I tend to base my prices on other businesses with similar products, but I'm struggling with shop visits and traffic. Should I be charging more competitively? So that feeds into that Seth Godin quote where we see low prices the marketer, the refuge of the marketer with nothing left to offer. Sounds like a snarky comment sometimes, but it isn't at all. It's much more about confidence. I'm going to have to hop off in a minute because it's just gone 1. So let me answer Jessica's question, then I'll be wrapping up really quickly, and I'll be back for live at lunch next week as well. With your products, if you're not making sales, it's often because there's a marketing issue at the top of your marketing funnel. So the key is to get more people to see your products. You can put your prices down, but that's very much a short-term strategy that will increase sales temporarily. But I wouldn't recommend putting your prices down. I would just recommend doing more marketing to get more people to see your products. And with products, try to make sure you're pricing based on other businesses with similar products as well. That's a really great way to make sure that you're not undercharging for your work as well. Anyway, that's a wrap. I'm sorry that we're rushing off and drawing it to a close quickly, but I will see you next week for live lunch. Keep an eye out for on your email for the Isaiah 54 verse 2 business plan webinar. That's going to be next week. We've got a couple of live slots available for you to join me, and it's a 90-minute session where we look at different parts of growing your business. And I will see you all very soon. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and thank you so much for joining me for today's workshop.